Ollie was on vacation. He'd rented a cabin out in the woods with a couple of friends. And they were just having a relaxing weekend, playing cards, reading books, and going on snowy hikes. It wasn't a super rough cabin. I mean, it wasn't. Oh, it, it was a rustic cabin, but not like crazy rustic. Like they had heat, and they had a stove, and also they were only maybe 10 miles from the nearest town. And one of the things that they'd gotten to eat were some green beans. And they were thinking about cooking the green beans, so then they just started snacking on them raw. And they were pretty good. They were crispy, they were sweet, and they tasted fresh. And then they got to talking. They were sitting outside, even though it was cold. They said, "Do you think? I mean, there's hibernating animals, right? There's bears and, I don't know, beavers. Do beavers hibernate? I don't even know. Mice and voles and rabbits, certainly. So they're just like mammals hiding underneath the snow, you think? Just right out there." They looked at the wood's edge, and everything looked still. It was dusk, and so the sun was setting. And you could almost imagine that lump of snow over there, or that pile of leaves over there, might be a beaver or a bear hibernating. Well, if they are, Ollie said, I think they'll probably stay right as they are. And one of his friends picked up one of the green beans and said, "Well, I think this green bean should hibernate too." He flung the green bean, and it shot into the snow like a dart. And it was instantly like it was gone. I said, "Whoa, nice shot. I can't even see where it went." And they didn't think much of it. They enjoyed the rest of their weekend. And then they went back. They were all from Baltimore, but different parts of the city. Then spring came, and it warmed up. And it was going to be a long weekend. And Ollie called up his friends again and said, "Hey, should we rent a cabin? Rent the same cabin and do another cabin weekend and see what it's like in the spring?" I saw online reservations. It's like $100 for the whole weekend. This coming weekend, they said? Yeah. I mean, I do have it free. So they made quick plans and got themselves up to the cabin just a couple days later. And the weather was beautiful. It's great weather for hiking, walking around the woods. They brought their playing cards again, and this time they also brought a couple of board games to play. And they played music, and they talked, and they had a grand old time for the first night. In the morning, Ollie was the first stop. So I decided to take a solo walk through the woods. And as he was leaving, he just happened to walk in a certain direction. He noticed a little plant. It looked like a bean plant. There weren't any other bean plants around. I looked carefully at it and said, "No, it couldn't be. Could it?" He took his walk, and when he came back, he got his two friends. They were up having coffee. He said, Guys, come here." One of his friends, Sean, knew a lot about plants. "Check it out." And Sean said, "Oh, it's a little bean plant." "Wait a second. Do you think it's the bean?" "Yeah, I think it's the bean that you threw into the snow months ago. It really did hibernate." "Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit young, but I think that's going to be a bean plant." And the other guy, whose name was Jeff, said, "That is cool, but are beans native to this area?" And I said, oh, I don't know. Sam said, I'll have to check. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, Jeff said, that as cool as it is that we planted a bean, if it's an invasive plant, we probably should pull it up. Oh, no, Ollie said. But you're right. You're right. Well, I'll tell you what. I think we should get hot dogs to grill for tonight. So let's go into town, go to the library, use the internet, and figure out if it's okay to leave a bean there, a bean plant. So a couple hours later, they drove into town. And they got their veggie hot dogs, and they got their buns, and their cheese, and their hot sauce, and their ketchup. And they went to the library. And they started looking it up on the internet there. They couldn't find a really solid answer. I said, well, I said, librarians know all sorts of stuff. Let's see. So they went over to the librarian and said, hey, I have a local native plant question. The librarian said, oh, I can try to answer, but if you see that guy over there reading in the corner? And they looked, and there was a person reading in the corner. His wife is a super expert in native plants. And if you can talk to her, I bet you can answer anything you want to know. But what's your question? I said, well, we accidentally planted a green bean plant. And we're wondering to know if it's okay to leave it or if we should pull it up. Oh, gosh, I have no idea. Yeah, you should go talk to him. His name is Phil, and his wife's name is Sharon. So they went over and said, pardon me, Phil? The guy looked up and said, hi, I don't think I know you. I said, yeah, the librarian said that your wife knows a lot about native plants. I said, oh, that's an understatement. She's a botany professor, and she specializes in the native plant species in this part of the country. Why? What do you need to know? So they explained, and he said, all right, well, hold on, let's go outside and call. I don't want to call in the library, but I happen to know she doesn't have any appointments right now. So they called the professor. She picked up and she said, you planted a bean plant. Irresponsible. No, I'm kidding. It's fine. But there are no green beans that are native to this area. So, as sad as it is, I think you should pull the plant. But here's the thing. Especially this time of the year, when it's still a young plant, I bet you could transplant it. I bet you could pull that plant up with some dirt from around it, carry it back to Baltimore, and plant it in a garden there and get green beans. So when they got back to the campsite, to the cabin rather, they had a tin can that they had some baked beans that they cooked in, or that they came in the can. So they turned that into a little pot, and they carefully moved the bean plant from the ground where they had been hibernating into the can. And they cared for it all weekend long. Then Sam took it back, planted it in his garden, and indeed, by the end of the summer, had a big crop of beans. And that was the case of Ollie, the hibernating bean.